Hi there, my name is Tom Bell, and welcome to my 5 Minute Friday videocast on the 11th of April. Who am I? Yes, I'm an author, consultant, educator, speaker, trainer. I'm not sure that means a lot when you say it that way, does it? But I'm going to talk a wee bit about issues of trust and ethics. So, just some small, light topics for this Friday. And I guess what's stimulated my thinking this week is that it seems the more you look around us, we have this idea of ethics in our head, don't we? By the way, I've never met anyone who can give me an accurate definition of ethics, one that's contextually relevant, if you like, for certainly for the times that we live in. You know, we use the word ethics and we think, oh, we know what that means, but actually, what is being ethical? Is being ethical actually being dishonest to other people if that means that you and yours survive, or is it being good and open to everybody, regardless of how that impacts on you? If you asked a charity whether or not they would want to survive for the next 20 years, most of them go, well, of course we would. But actually, the ethical answer is they would like to be made redundant because the needs that they are dealing with, they don't really want those to exist forever. But again, that's another question. But I guess what's baffling me is I asked Google this week to define kleptocracy, and interestingly, Google replied, well, kleptocracy, or sometimes known as thievocracy, is where the rich and the powerful enrich themselves further with the public's asset by taking public assets by taking advantage of those less fortunate, fleecing the country, essentially fleecing its citizens, fleecing its businesses for their own enrichment. And what prompted that, of course, was the Trump issues, the T word. Sorry, I couldn't get away without using that this week. But watching what happened with Trump this week, where he was going to, and then he wasn't going to, and then he did, and then he didn't, and then he didn't, blah, 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 and he did for some and not for others. Essentially, what happened was some people around him got incredibly wealthy based on what he did. Sold at the right time, bought at the right time, all those things. So I think history will eventually reveal what happened this week as the largest case of insider trading done in plain sight that the world has ever seen, up to press. There's time yet, of course. We can always sink to lower depths if we try hard, can't we? But what fascinated me was we're in this position where have we now stopped blaming people for bad acts? Because we heard over the last few years the use of these phrases like post-truth era and post-trust era. It kind of strikes me as a post-honesty era, and I know I might have said that before, but that's essentially what it is. Because when people say I live in an era, it's a bit like people saying, well, I'm stuck in traffic. At the same time as you're stuck in the traffic, you are part of the traffic. So you're part of that era. So how do you act in that era? Do you come out of the traffic, which is easier said than done, isn't it? Do you live a different life? Do you use different principles? Do you apply different morals to your life when you're trying to live in a world which essentially right now doesn't reward morality? It doesn't reward integrity. And I think that one of the issues here, and my mother who'd agree with this, of course, because she's very, very religious, is that people no longer have God sitting on their shoulder, do they? We might have CCTV, but we no longer have God sitting on our shoulder telling us what the right and the wrong thing to do is. And there's something there, isn't there, where we're now at this point where the people who are doing what we would traditionally call wrong things, to them, they're just doing the right things for them. And they realize that the rest of us have no power really to correct that or to stop that, and they just look back at us and go, well, so what? What are you going to do about it, So that question of ethics, what's the role of ethics now? What's the role of ethics in a godless world? And I'm sure people with bigger minds than me have considered these topics over the years, but what's the role of ethics in a godless world where people are neither held accountable for or can be excused for, where we label everything as an expected behaviour because the circumstances created the situation in which those things could happen, yeah? And I don't know. I think it's okay to talk about people having internal moral compasses, and I know that my internal, in fact, let's not call it a moral compass, actually, just an internal compass, just a way of looking at things, a way of seeing things that I have that works for me, which makes me feel warm and cozy when I think I'm doing the right thing as I judge the right thing to be. But the right thing that I judge to be is probably not the right thing for many other people. Certainly my experience of whistleblowing within the NHS brought that to life in terms of I thought I was doing the right thing, but the people around me thought I was rocking the boat, troublemaker, all the rest of that stuff that you normally get associated with. So yeah, if, by the way, you are fortunate enough to have any money in a pension fund, can I advise you that you do not look at it this week, or probably for the next few years while Trump's still in power. It will go up and down like a yo-yo, quite possibly down further than it goes up, but hey-ho, that's life. On that note, have a good weekend. Stay safe, stay solvent, stay sane if you can. Ciao.